Hey guys, this is Trent. I am here to talk to all of you about my final impressions of the Nokia N97 Mini. Now, I'm not going to go into a software tour on this particular video since this is only a smaller version of the original N97. So if you'd like to catch any of my earlier episodes in regards to the software features of the original N97, you're more than welcome to do so. But I'm going to go ahead and just get into my own opinions about the device itself. After using this as my main phone for a number of days, I concluded that there were 4 different aspects that had been improved upon from the original N97. And these aspects happen to be build quality, portability, the notification light, and overall stability. If the E71 and the N97 were to get together and procreate, this would be the end result. There is no doubt that the N97 Mini has a more high class and a more expensive feel to it than the original N97. Now, even though the Mini may come across as a bit puny in comparison to the original N97, do not let the size fool you. There is a great amount of refinement into how Nokia constructed this particular model. In addition to the solid plastics that do not creak inside of your hand, there are also additional metallic elements that have been incorporated as well. The N97 Mini is pretty much the first time that I've been able to hold an N-series device and immediately be reminded of the refinement that comes from the E-series line. This model is definitely a solid and a high-end contender for the N-series line from Nokia. Common sense says that when you take any device and shrink it down to size, it of course becomes that much easier to carry around, whether it be in your pocket or any kind of backpack or whatever. This N97 Mini is no different. Being that it's a bit shorter and a bit thinner than the original N97, it is that much easier to throw in and out of your pocket throughout the day. And I've noticed that right off the bat. The original N97 model incorporated a notification light that was very hard to see at times because it only happened to be a little rim of light around the menu key. But the Mini model has taken this a step further. Instead of the notification light being a slight glow around the menu key itself, the entire menu key glows as the notification light. When it comes to operating more than a few applications on this phone, the N97 Mini did not have any problem whatsoever. I was able to operate at least 7 to 8 applications at one time without any problems at all. But as far as interface navigation goes, this Mini did not operate any differently than the N97 with the new version 20 firmware upgrade. Now, as far as audio quality goes, the N97 Mini is exactly the same as the N97. You won't have any problem hearing voice calls through the earpiece. You'll have plenty of volume and plenty of clarity in the signal. And the same thing also remains true for the stereo speakers of the Mini. They are just as powerful as the original N97 and prove to be very useful in regards to listening to your music out loud. Now, the great thing about these speakers, as with the original model, is that when you go into the higher levels of volume, there is no sign of distortion whatsoever. Now that I happen to be on the topic of audio quality, I have to also add that the N97 Mini is the first model that I've seen to incorporate in-ear headphones. Another great feature on this included headset with the Mini happens to be the remote that's built in. Now, in addition to having typical controls for your music playback, it also has controls for incoming voice calls. You have your play, pause, forward, and reverse controls on the front face, and then on the side, you have a call button along with a volume rocker switch. Another thing I must add is that on the front face, along with the music control buttons, there is also a microphone included. And last but not least, on the back, there is a handy clip. And of course, this headset connects to the device with a 3.5mm headset jack. As far as the camera is concerned, you need not worry about the Mini being a downgrade to the N97. It actually seems to be the exact same camera unit that's used on the N97. There were no problems in regards to having good still picture quality, and as to be expected, the video footage shot from this 5-megapixel Carl Zeiss lens is of top-notch quality in regards to the smartphone lineup. I did a previous episode where I compared video footage taken from the N97 Mini in comparison to that of the HD2 from HTC. But with the N97 Mini, I am confident that its camera is much better than the HD2 and will surely surpass it in regards to recording this conversation that I'm having with you guys right now. And needless to say, the N97 passed with flying colors. So there is no doubt that using the Mini will not be a downgrade whatsoever in regards to using the camera. N97 Mini does not have access to the 3G network on T-Mobile, but I do believe it is compatible with the 3G network of AT&T. Being confined to using Edge only for my data didn't prove to be any problem at all. I still got calls that were very secure and didn't have any sort of drops whatsoever. It does not come with the same kind of 1500 milliamp hour battery that is on the original N97. Charging this device overnight should be enough to give you at least one full day of usage. And this, of course, depends on whether you're a power user or a non-power user. So overall, I did not find the battery life to be that bad. It was a little bit more lacking in comparison to the original N97, but not to the point to where it makes it a deal breaker. As much as I want to say that the QWERTY keypad feels much better and has more tactile feedback on the Mini, at the end of the day, it really doesn't. It feels no different than the original N97 model. Now, honestly, when you take your fingers and run them across the keys and feel and touch them, you will notice that the keys on the Mini do feel a bit more raised from the surface of the phone than the original N97. But when you get into typing throughout the day, they don't feel much different at all. With all of that being said, in the middle of the day when I had to type SMS messages and emails, the tactile feedback still felt the same as the original N97 model. It still felt soft, and it didn't really have that reassuring click that I was used to having from my HTC Touch Pro 2. If you ask me, the only main difference between using the D-pad and the directional keys is that one was on the left side of the keypad and the other one happens to be on the left. And that's pretty much it. Now, even though the N97 Mini is, of course, a bit more portable than the original predecessor, you still have to take into consideration that the screen size gets smaller as well. If I'm not mistaken, I do believe that the screen size goes from 3.5 on the N97 to 3.2 on the N97 Mini. It's not smaller to the point to where it's intolerable, it's just smaller than the original N97. So just keep that in mind. After getting used to devices like the N97, the Touch Pro 2, and the N900, I have built up a preference for touch screens that are at least 3.5 inches so that I can be sure to have enough real estate to be able to browse the web, write emails, write Word documents, and view movies and photos in the most comfortable way possible. Another aspect of the N97 Mini that can be seen as a negative by some people happens to be the lack of a physical slider to protect the camera lens. For me personally, I don't really care whether or not a device has a sliding lens cover. It just happens to be a luxury feature. I can go without it, or I don't mind having it if it's there. In regards to the power button at the top of the device, it appears to lay extremely flush against the body of the phone, so it's very hard to get any sort of tactile feedback when you have to press into it. One more potential downside to the N97 Mini are the quirks that come from the Symbian 5th edition touchscreen interface. There are times when you have to tap things more than once to get it to register. There are times when certain transitions can get a bit laggy, but at the end of the day, turning the phone off and then back on again tends to solve this problem. At the same time, sluggish speed was not really a mainstay in regards to my using the device every day. One more thing I need to mention that could be a potential downer for maybe one or two people out there is that the Mini model does not come with a stylus like the original N97 did. It basically comes by itself, and being that it's so small, I take it that Nokia basically assumed that it would be enough for people to use their fingers to navigate the interface. The interface for Symbian 5th edition tends to be very clunky when I use it throughout the day, and it also tends to feel very antiquated in comparison to other contenders that happen to be out there, like the Apple iPhone, Google Android, and Palm WebOS. At the beginning, when I first tried out Symbian 5th edition, I remembered not being too impressed with its overall look and the way that it handled itself in navigating different parts of the phone. Whether people may disagree with me or not, Symbian 5th edition is basically Symbian 3rd edition with a touch overlay. So at the end of the day, being that this has a smaller screen and being that it has the same kind of touch interface that can get a bit boring after a while, I would have to say no for the N97 Mini. Even though the touch interface does seem to be very ancient and very clunky, I do have to give credit where it's deserved. This N97 Mini is basically in the same class as the N97 in regards to having a very powerful smartphone that can basically satisfy all of the average user's needs. It can handle Word documents, it can handle MMS messaging, it can handle SMS and emails, it can handle voice calls, it can handle viewing videos, it can handle shooting videos, it can handle taking pictures with a very nice flash feature that's built into it. It can basically do it all depending on what your needs are. In addition to that, the N97 Mini takes the N97 a step further. Not only is it more portable and a bit more stable, but it also looks a lot better as well with the included metallic accents. And it feels a little bit more sexier too. So even though this may not work for me for a number of reasons, this does not mean that it may not work for any of you who are out there looking at this video right now. So with all of that being said, I will continue to make more videos on upcoming gadgets, and I hope that all of you stay tuned. In the meantime, you all take care and stay safe.